Halo, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, we are from group 5, and in Psycholinguistics, we will present chapter 1. We back to review chapter 1. The title is Acquisitions. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. So, our members are Mariska Rimadona, Ranji Perdan, Ria Marada, Sinta, and last one is Siti Oktarina. Well, so the first part is no language but a cry. What we have learned about crying is that it is not only communicative, it is also a direct precursor to bird language. There are human symbolic communications and speech or spoken language. In a sense, crying, at least in the first few months, is a kind of language without speech because the child communicates different types of discomfort without using normal speech sounds. Next, during the first few weeks of a child's life, crying is largely an autonomic response to noxious stimuli triggered by the autonomic nervous system as a primary reflex. In brief, this means that the crying response is hardwired into the child, and crying is initially a spontaneous reaction unaffected by intentional control from the voluntary nervous system, which eventually evolved as the mover and shaper of most human behavior. Even at this relatively primitive stage, however, crying is a direct preparation for a lifetime of vocal communications. Crying initially is completely iconic. There is a direct and transparent link between the physical sound and its communicative intent. So, for example, the hungrier a baby becomes, the louder and the longer the crying. It also increases a pitch. The degree of discomfort is directly proportional to the intensity of the acoustic signal. But in the first month or two of the child's development, crying becomes more differentiated and more symbolic. This means that it is not directly related to the child's sense of discomfort. Rather, the cries are subtly, indirectly, and almost randomly associated with its needs. Well, next part will be explained by Sinta.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sinta. I will explain about first word. According to Couple Thomas 1998, first word is a step into symbolic communications, and it signifies the start of the rapid vocabulary growth with which thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, as well as other areas of linguistic development are framed. So after crying, cooing, and babbling, we come to the culminations of child's early language development, the first word. Okay, next types of first word. So there are two types of first word. The first is idiomorphs. Idiomorphs is what small children invent in their initial attempts to acquire a language. So words they imping when they first catch onto the magical notions, the churn sounds have a unique reference. For example, kaka as the word for me, and then wawa as the word for cat. Okay, next, egocentric. So egocentric speech is a form of speech that is typically observed in young children and involves them using speech without addressing anyone in particular. For example, no, I'm going to feed the dog. Okay, I think that's all. The next explanation by my friends. Thank you.
Okay, I will continue explain about the birth of grammar. The birth of grammar. Babies start learning grammar from the moment they are born, a study has revealed. Researchers found that in their first year of life, infants are listening intently to language and deconstructing word patterns. And next, holophrastic. Holophrastic, a term used to describe one-word sentences used by small children, and using or consisting of a single word that functions as a phrase or sentences. Examples for holophrastic: the children were matched for mean-length of utterance, all subjects performing at the holophrastic level. And next, transformational generative grammar, favored and American Sign Language. Transformational generative grammar, a Chomsky model of grammar which posits a set of grammatical rules or transformation which operate on phrase structure to generate all and only of the sentence of a language. Pivot, word used by young children either to begin or end a two-word utterance. For example, daddy car. And the last, American Sign Language, a language used by the deaf or hearing impaired in the United States. It is based on manual and facial movement. And next, difference between child and chimpanzees. There is a child, very little repetition, syntax, phrase structure, chimp, repetition, random, and no phrase structure. Next, material will be explained by my partner.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Oktarina. Okay, I will present about innatedness. In the mentioned experience, the chimp was constantly bombarded with signs and rewarded and devices to use the language signs. Human children also receive an enormous amount of linguistic input on any given day. They are frequently rewarded just for speaking up. Indeed, they are sometimes encouraged to be seen but not heard. There are even cultures which discourage young children from engaging adults in prolonged conversations. For example, some of the Native American tribes of Arizona and New Mexico. And next is language innatedness. The first is experiences. Claim that children acquire language from linguistic experience. And number second is nativist belief that children are born with some linguistic knowledge. And last is supporting evidence for innatedness. Deaf children invited a form of gestural language similarities to HSL children acquire the mother tongue in 2 until 3 years. And the last is the innatedness hypothesis. Innatedness hypothesis, children are equipped with a template for language, the universal grammar, and the template help the child construct the grammar for her language. And next is children are not born with the capacity for any one language, but for language in general. And last is innatedness theory. Chomsky in this article thinks the theory was largely methodology and serious delusions. Children often ignore the language corrections and how a word learned in certain situations could be used in others. And last is how a child produces sentence that he or she never heard before. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ranji Pradhan. So I will present about a child's creativity. So there is another way in which language acquisition is relatively independent from environmental influence. So despite the distance control that the latter exercise on the course of our first language development. Children are creative, their mono or bilingual environments. Children are creative word myths. So it's evidence in the following exchange between a friend and her 2 years old. So about this, we have a daughter, somebody's the door. Mother, there's nobody at the door. Then daughter, there's is a body at the door. Even at this early age, children can sometimes display a profound understanding of the synthetic machinery of their mother tongue. So, for example, the merging of foreign accents in the speech of bilingual children at about the age 12 suggests to some linguistics that there exists a critical period for first language learning, which is bilingual, bilingually determined. Certain words act as mortar and seem to hold words together in a certain order. It is this sensitivity toward because and structure that allows children to create grammatically in sentence, and it is the lack of synthetic sense that appears to prevent teams from creating sequence resembling human language. And last is not how to primitive negative sounds in stage 1 with an MLU of 1.75 words and eventually evolve into the adult like from stage 3 where the MLUs are from 3 until 5 to 4 words. So the stage 1, use of no at the start of the sentence, not a saying and not a married to it. So stage 2, use of no inside the sentence but no auxiliary or be verb. There are no rabbits. I noticed it. And the stage 3, use of not with appropriate abbreviation of auxiliary or be penny. Didn't laugh. It's not raining. Thank you.